Hello there, my friend. Tonight we jump, literally, straight into the action as a World War II fighter pilot, and it doesn't start well. Your Spitfire's engine screams as it catches fire over Normandy. You pull the ripcord, but survival is just beginning. The real challenge starts the moment your boots hit French soil. Now you're alone, in uniform, with every German patrol hunting you. Could you evade capture long enough to find the resistance? Or would the occupied countryside become your grave? Tonight, we walk through the brutal realities of a downed RAF pilot's escape, step by grueling step. The dirt kicks up as you hit the ground hard enough to rattle your teeth. That perfect parachute landing drilled into you at training camp. Forget it. You're on your side gasping, ears ringing from the sudden silence after your Spitfire's death scream. The harness digs into your shoulders where it snapped tight during the drop. You push yourself up, left knee throbbing, palm stinging. But the adrenaline hasn't let you notice the gash on your thigh yet. Blood soaks slowly into blue wool. German patrols clocked your parachute the moment it opened. Their trucks could already be bumping down farm lanes toward this field. You count backward from 10 minutes, the average response time for a daytime bailout. Fumbling at your flight jacket, you find the metal survival tin. It weighs less than a loaded magazine. Inside, 4 water purification tablets, expired last month, a silk map of railroads that were bombed to rubble in 1942, and matches that won't light in Normandy's damp air. The compass might work if you shake it hard enough. Your uniform reeks of high-octane fuel and sweat. That stench travels farther than you'd think. German shepherds catch it a mile downwind. The parachute silk lies tangled in the barley behind you like a giant white arrow pointing, "Enemy here." Burial takes 9 minutes you don't have. Distraction. Throw it over a fence and hope they chase the wrong scent. Both tricks failed half the squadron before you. A farmhouse chimney smokes 400 yards east. The family inside just heard your plane go down. French farmers got their children executed last month for hiding a Canadian navigator. Their hesitation will last exactly as long as it takes to weigh your life against theirs. RAF intelligence briefings said most captured pilots never made it 300 yards from their landing zone. The ones who survived kept moving before their chutes even settled. You wipe engine oil from your eyelids. It mixed with tears during the descent, and scan the tree line. West means sunset shadows to hide in. East means possible collaborators. The ditch at the field's edge calls to you like a lover. Crawling through its muddy water would mask your body heat from infrared scopes. But it's also the first place German foot patrols check after securing the crash site. You count 3 distinct boot prints in the soft earth near the fence, fresh enough to still gleam with morning dew. Your revolver weighs heavy in its holster. 3 rounds. Enough for suicide, not escape. The metallic click when you check the cylinder sounds louder than your actual crash. Tiny choices now. Leave the harness buckle jingling as a decoy. Snap it off silently. Either way, the leather straps leave distinct grooves in the soil that trackers follow like breadcrumbs. Cornstalks whisper ahead, wind or movement. You freeze mid-step. Training said to watch for unnatural bird patterns. But every damn sparrow in Normandy acts like it's on the payroll. The first rifle shot will come from nowhere. Maybe a farm boy earning his first Reichsmarks. Maybe a Wehrmacht sergeant who missed breakfast. You're running properly now, heels hitting dirt at angles to confuse footprint analysis. The survival tin bounces against your ribs with each stride. That morphine syringe inside suddenly seems more valuable than gold. Save it for when the pain becomes unbearable, which it will. Church bells clang 2 villages over. Not the hour, Not a drill. That's the local warning system your briefing files mentioned. They're already sealing off roads. Your boots skid in fresh manure as you vault a stone wall. Better traction than mud, worse for stealth. The setting sun paints everything blood red, including the torn silk still fluttering from an apple tree branch behind you. German motorcycle engines whine in the distance. They'll quarter search this area first, methodical grids that leave no ditch unscanned. Your only advantage? They expect scared rabbits, not thinking men. That farmhouse window just darkened as someone peered out. Friend or informant? No time to find out. You're already moving west toward twilight and whatever comes next. The first rule of evasion. Never look back, so you don't see the lantern light flick on in the farmyard behind you, or the old man reaching for his telephone. The clock ran out 60 seconds ago. Welcome to occupied France. The metal survival tin clicks open with your thumbnail. Inside, the contents rattle like a child's toy, light enough to forget you're carrying it until you desperately need what's inside. The War Office packed this in 1942, based on reports from men who'd never been shot down over enemy territory. Their idea of survival gear: 6 water purification tablets that dissolve into a chalky paste at the first sign of French humidity. You shake the glass tube. 3 tablets remain, their expiration date smudged beyond reading. The compass comes from captured German stocks, its needle jittering as you hold it flat. Only later will you realize it points 15 degrees off true north, a deliberate manufacturing flaw to mislead escaped POWs. Right now, you just note the deepening shadows confirming sundown approaches west-southwest. Or is it west-northwest? The dial trembles indecisively in your palm. 3 pilot biscuits wrapped in wax paper crumble at your touch. These were stale when issued 6 weeks ago. Now they disintegrate into salty dust before reaching your mouth. Chocolate rations might have sustained you, but some enterprising airmen at briefing stole the entire block while officers weren't looking. Your stomach growls despite the taste of engine smoke still coating your throat. Emergency matches nestle in waterproof packaging that isn't. The red phosphorus tips smear across the striker pad without igniting. Night falls fast in Normandy, and with it comes a cold that seeps through layers of wool and leather. You briefly consider trying to spark a flame with your revolver's steel butt plate before remembering muzzle flashes draw mortar teams like moths. That revolver, a Webley Mark IV, weighs heavy in its thigh holster. Enough to fight your way out of a farmer's barn perhaps, but certainly not to win an engagement with trained infantry. The noise alone would summon every German within 2 miles. You check the cylinder again. 3 brass circles wink back mockingly. Buried at the bottom lies the kit's only reliable item: a morphine syringe in a sealed foil tube. The needle pierces fabric effortlessly when tested against your sleeve. You reseal it carefully. Pain will come, from twisted ankles, infected shrapnel wounds, the stomach cramps of hunger. But not yet. Not while adrenaline still hums through your veins. Farmers trade food for cigarettes in occupied zones. Or so intelligence claimed. Your packet of Player's Navy cut sticks feels suspiciously light. Tearing it open reveals 10 sodden cigarettes fused together by engine oil leaking from your flight jacket. Useless as currency now. Another potential advantage gone before you could exploit it. Your fingers trace the tiny escape saw sewn into your uniform's cuff. It looks like an innocent thread until you tease out the fine-toothed steel wire. This could cut through prison bars given enough time. But sawing at fence wire triggers vibrations German patrols detect with listening devices. The RAF issued these for breakout attempts after capture. not for evasion in open countryside. The first aid pouch contains 2 sulfur powder packets for wound treatment. Both tore open during your parachute descent, leaving gritty trails down your trouser legs. Blood and dirt form a dark paste, where the fabric sticks to your thigh. Infection will set in within 36 hours without proper cleaning. Stream water teems with parasites. Well water means exposing yourself at populated areas. Finally, buried beneath layers of wax paper, a single benzodrine tablet winks in the fading light. Amphetamines kept bomber crews awake during 9-hour sorties. In your case, they'll either sharpen your senses or push you into hyper-aware panic. No way to predict which until you swallow it. You repack the tin methodically. The lid snaps shut with finality. These items must last until you either find the resistance or get captured, whichever comes first. Probability favors the latter, but probability hadn't accounted for your willingness to lick dew off grass at dawn or sleep standing up in haystacks to avoid leaving body-shaped depressions. The farmer's dog barks in the distance. Tin safely pocketed, you turn your back on the sunset and start walking northeast, not toward any sanctuary marked on that useless silk map, but perpendicular to all predicted escape routes. Let them search south toward Spain, while you move toward the last place they'd expect, deeper into occupied territory. Every item in that kit represents somebody's idea of salvation. None of them account for the reality of mud that sucks at your boots, or the way hunger makes your hands shake too badly to thread a fishing line, or how thirst eventually drives men to drink from puddles shimmering with rainbow-hued gasoline. Survival gear can't compensate for occupied France itself, turning against you. You adjust your grip on the revolver. 3 rounds, enough to maintain the illusion of control. Dawn lies 20 brutal hours away. The tin clicks softly against your hip with each limping step into darkness. The moonlight makes the RAF wings on your chest glow faintly blue against the dark wool. They might as well be a target painted in phosphor. You run a thumb over the embroidered threads. The crown, the eagle, the letters spelling out your allegiance. Torn off, they leave telltale needle holes in the fabric. Left on, they're a beacon for any German patrol scanning the fields. Your hands hover at the tunic buttons. Strip naked and the cold will finish what the enemy started. Autumn nights in Normandy drop low enough to cause hypothermia within hours. Keep the uniform, and every collaborator within 5 miles gets to cash in on the bounty for captured airmen. The blood from your forehead wound has seeped into the wool, turning the blue black where it dried. Moonlight picks out the stain's edges with cruel clarity, mapping your path for trackers. The leather flying jacket smells of sweat and aviation fuel despite 3 days on the run. You could ditch the RAF insignia, try to pass it off as civilian wear. But the cut is all wrong. Too fitted at the waist, too many pockets for a farmer's coat. The stench of high-octane fuel won't wash out, not without soap and time you don't have. German shepherds key on that chemical scent from half a kilometre away. Your boots are worse. The deep treads leave perfect impressions in soft soil, each heel mark patterned like a manufacturer's stamp. The Wehrmacht trains its trackers with plaster casts of Allied footwear. Your size 9 prints might as well come with an arrow pointing escape route. Scuffing them with dirt barely disguises the distinctive arch support ridge. Farmhouses dot the landscape ahead. Stealing clothes seems logical until you remember the squadron briefing. Over 60% of captured evaders got caught looting wardrobes. Either the owners raised the alarm, or you ended up wearing some farmer's Sunday best that looked even more suspicious than your uniform. One downed navigator got caught because his stolen suit still had the original owner's ration card in the pocket. You weigh the cap in your hands, blue fabric stiff with dried sweat, the RAF roundel bright as a bullseye. Tossing it into the brambles removes the most visible identifier, but bareheaded men draw attention too. The local priest might notice the military haircut beneath. Your fingers dig at the embroidered insignia on the jacket sleeve, but the threads resist tearing. The effort leaves red marks on your fingertips. From the ditch ahead comes the sound of a safety catch clicking off. You freeze. The uniform suddenly feels like a shroud. That distinctive RAF blue turns you into a silhouette against the moonlit pasture. German infantry know to scan for the particular way light reflects off wool tunics. Your breathing sounds deafening in the stillness. The uniform offers one advantage: Geneva Convention protection, in theory. The stories from court airmen vary. Some sat out the war in POW camps. Others got marched into the woods for a short walk that ended with a Luger's muzzle against their skull. Much depends on whether the local commander cares about Red Cross inspections. Your dog tags clink softly under the tunic. You make your choice. The cap goes into the stream, swirling away downstream like a tiny raft. The jacket stays, but you rub dirt into the wings until the embroidery blends into the fabric. Not perfect, but it might fool someone at a distance. The boots will have to do. Barefoot travel turns your soles to hamburger within miles. A branch snaps in the hedgerow. You drop flat, pressing into the earth. The uniform's elbow patches scrape against a rock. It's not the Germans, just a badger lumbering through the undergrowth. You count to 30 before moving again. The adjustments help, but not enough. You're still fundamentally what you are, a downed airman in an occupied country where everyone gets rewarded for turning you in. 7 farmhouses sit within visible sight. 2 have laundry hanging outside, tempting targets for clothes theft. 1 flies a Nazi flag. 3 have chimneys smoking, families awake and alert. The last sits dark, its windows boarded. No good choices, only calculated risks. Your uniform buttons catch the moonlight as you button the collar up to hide the white undershirt. You're committed now. The RAF wings remain on your chest, hidden enough to avoid instant recognition, present enough to prove your status if captured by regular troops, rather than the SS. It's all about plausible deniability for anyone helping you. The uniform stays. For now. Footsteps crunch on gravel somewhere beyond the hedgerow. German voices murmur low. They're following the drainage ditch, where you crossed an hour ago. The bloodstain on your trousers has started flaking, leaving microscopic trails in the grass. Nothing left to do but walk casually toward the farmhouse with the shuttered windows, trying to remember the French phrase for "I won't cause trouble." Every step feels like a countdown. Your shadow stretches long ahead of you, the modified uniform making a passable impression of civilian work clothes from certain angles. Shadows can lie. So can uniforms. The kitchen light flicks on as you reach for the gate latch. Someone's home after all. The village smells of wood smoke and rotting potatoes as you step onto the cobbled square. Every curtain twitch feels deliberate. Someone counting the number of buttons on your altered uniform, noting the 2 clean shave that marks you as military. 3 elderly women sit knitting outside the bakery, their needles clicking in perfect time. They stop talking the moment you rounded the corner. Their eyes track you without moving their heads. The cafe has 5 patrons. You pick the stool nearest the exit, back against the wall. The barman takes twice as long, wiping your glass as he did the previous customers. His pinky finger taps the counter in a nervous rhythm. 3 quick, Too slow. Message or tick. You pretend not to notice the way his gaze lingers on your cuffs, where RAF blue peeks through the hastily applied mud. 20 Reichsmarks buys a captured pilot's whereabouts here. Enough for a month's groceries. Children play with a wooden hoop near the fountain. Their laughter rings unnaturally bright, their glances toward you too frequent. German garrisons pay in candy for reports of strangers. A boy of maybe 9 stares openly at your boots. The leather's quality gives you away despite weeks of scuffing. You fight the urge to pull your feet under the stool. A priest emerges from the church across the square. His cassock swirls as he stops to adjust his shoes, an oddly deliberate gesture. When he looks up, his eyes meet yours for exactly 2 seconds before flicking toward the confessional booth. Resistance contact or Gestapo plant? Impossible to tell. The Germans executed 12 priests in this department last month for hiding airmen. The ones left either collaborate or play an exceedingly dangerous game. The farmer at the end of the bar grips his tumbler differently from the others. His hands stay perfectly still between sips while everyone else fidgets. Ask a local about the weather, and he pauses 3 full seconds before answering. The delay indicates calculation, running through possible responses, weighing what the Germans might hear later. His wife keeps the counter between herself and the door, body angled to bolt. Occupied populations develop these tells. You mimic the local posture, shoulders slumped, hands shoved deep in pockets as if always cold. The posture makes your uniform jacket bunch awkwardly. 4 men at the corner table have stopped their card game to watch. One absently strokes the handle of a knife stuck in the tabletop. The barkeep sets down your drink with unnecessary force, the noise making you flinch. Everyone sees it. 3 rules for occupied villages. Never enter a house first. Let someone lead so you're not walking into an ambush. Never sit with your back exposed. You want to see who comes through the door. Never accept wine. Drunk pilots make bad decisions, and everyone remembers the fool who sang God Save the King in a Breton tavern. The gendarme entering the cafe doesn't wear a German uniform, but his boots are polished Wehrmacht issue. He leans on the counter next to you, ordering in accented French thick enough to be performative. His fingers drum along the bar top, a perfect match for the barman's earlier rhythm. They've done this before. You swallow the cider in one go and stand, nodding to no one in particular. The gendarme's eyes follow you to the door, but he doesn't move. Outside, the church bell strikes an odd hour. Not the steady tolling for mass, but 3 spaced notes, then nothing. Behind you, chairs scrape as the card players rise. The bakery's door opens as you pass. One of the knitting women stands there holding a loaf wrapped in paper. She says nothing, just extends it slightly toward the alley mouth. Too obvious. Could be genuine compassion, or bait so the gendarme finds you with stolen bread. You walk past. Halfway down the lane, a shutter clicks open above you. A child's face appears, then vanishes. Seconds later, a whistle echoes from the square. 3 notes identical to the church bell. Your hands stay rammed in your pockets, fingering the revolver's grip. 3 rounds. Against how many? The eastern road out of town passes a cemetery where fresh graves outnumber old ones. Several plots bear no crosses, just mounds of disturbed earth. You count 15 before reaching the tree line. The village still feels quiet behind you, but that means nothing. Silence doesn't equal safety in occupied France. Footsteps crunch gravel somewhere to your left. You duck behind an oak, breathing through your mouth to quiet the sound. A lone figure moves along the hedgerow, the farmer from the cafe. He pauses at the tree line, looks directly at your hiding place, then tosses something into the grass, walks away without breaking stride. You wait 10 minutes before retrieving it, a butcher's knife wrapped in greased paper containing 2 thick slices of ham. The handle's warm from his pocket. No note, no obvious trap. Either humanity persists, or the Germans have gotten subtler. Dirt roads branch in 3 directions ahead. The ham tastes intensely of salt and smoke as you chew, watching the village for movement. Still quiet. Too quiet. A downed airman's paranoia never sleeps, but neither do the men hunting you. You choose the middle path, for no reason beyond its cracked mud, looking slightly less travelled. The knife goes into your belt under the jacket. Tomorrow's problem. Explaining it if searched. Today's problem. Making it to tomorrow. The village recedes behind you, its secrets intact. You'll never know whether that cafe housed friend or foe, only that you walked out alive, for now. The first hour after a crash is when the Germans are most methodical. Their search grids look random, but each patrol follows precise vectors. 3 men sweeping perpendicular to hedgerows, motorcycles crisscrossing dirt roads at 15-minute intervals. The randomness is calculated. Their perimeter expands outward at 2 miles per hour, unless they find signs. Then it tightens like a noose. You ditch your parachute too fast. That's the first mistake rookies make. Burying it leaves loose soil that reflects moonlight differently. Stashing it in a tree makes the branches sway against the wind. Leave it completely and the silk snags like a white flag in the brush. The pilots who survived longest treated parachutes like toxic waste, handled once, then abandoned without looking back. Night moves seem safer, until your boot catches a rabbit hole. The ankle twists with a pop loud enough to make you bite your tongue. The German corporal 2 fields over hears the choked scream through his field glasses. Dawn finds you limping toward what the map claims is a forest. Except the Wehrmacht cleared those trees last winter for anti-tank obstacles. The stumps now stand waist-high in perfect rows, offering no cover at all. Stream crossings are clear in your mind from training. Kneel on a rock, drink without disturbing the bank, but your canteen melted when the cockpit caught fire. Now you're cupping water straight from the current, leaving perfect handprints in the soft mud. Behind you, a tracker kneels to measure the span between your fingers. They know your approximate height now. Hunting dog teams get issued plaster casts of Allied boot treads. Their handlers carry diagrams showing how weight distribution changes when men favor injured legs. Personal effects become liabilities. That photo of your girlfriend back in Kent. Burying it seems logical until you realize fresh dirt attracts patrols like flies. One downed bomber pilot got caught because he carved his initials into a beech tree. Another folded his escape map into a paper airplane for a village boy. The Gestapo shot the mayor for failing to report it. You smell the hayloft before seeing it, dry grass and mildew. The farmer glances at your boots when pretending not to notice you slipping into his barn. That split-second hesitation tells you everything. He'll report it at dawn after carefully calculating which checkpoint pays the highest rewards. Statistically, you have until 5:17 a.m. The truly desperate pilots actually believed those briefings about French patriotism guaranteeing sanctuary. They're the ones who sat waiting at arranged safe houses while the Germans tapped the phone lines. Navigation spirals get men killed fastest. The urge to circle back toward familiar terrain leaves overlapping boot prints that even rookie trackers can follow. Your map shows a river that could provide cover. The Germans dynamited it last spring to create swampy ground that preserves footprints for days. RAF intelligence updates lag 6 months behind frontline changes. Everyone remembers training saying to head south for Spain. So do the German border guards. The Pyrenees might as well glow with floodlights now. You strike northeast instead, toward the industrial zones, where resistance cells run on pure spite. The trade-off? Factories mean worker identity checks and police patrols every 300 yards. Dogs sound closer than they are. The wind carries their barks in odd ways. Their staggered deployment means you're likely hearing 3 separate teams from different vectors. The drainage ditch gives cover for 7 minutes before knee-deep water compromises your boot leather. Now each step squeaks. German marksmen train at pop-up targets moving between ditches. Their rifles sight for 200 meters, the exact width of this field. Morning fog should help. Instead, it turns your breaths into visible puffs that hover too long. The ration tin in your pocket clicks against a loose button. The noise carries. Methamphetamine from your survival kit would sharpen your senses, but also make you twitch during crucial stillness. Most evaders get greedy about sleep. 20 minutes in a hedgerow becomes 40 when exhaustion wins. You force yourself up after 18 precisely counted minutes. Long enough to rest, short enough that rigor mortis hasn't set into your limbs. The ditch mud has preserved your body heat in perfect outline. Thermal cameras won't exist for decades, but wet earth holds warmth in ways trackers learn to read. Church bells sound the hour. German shifts rotate at precise intervals, never on the hour, always 17 minutes past, to disrupt partisan timing. You use the bell change to mask the sound of crawling through brambles. The thigh wound from your crash has begun seeping again. Blood leaves a scent trail detectable at half a mile by those dogs. Your silk map shows a network of pre-war hiking trails. The Germans mined them last Tuesday. No pattern, just random intervals to catch the unwary. The only guaranteed safe path cuts straight through a rifle range. You choose the minefield because at least those explosions might mask your position long enough to reach the far tree line. Wind shifts carry voices from the south checkpoint. They're reading descriptions from a downed pilot's ID card found in the wreckage. Your photo's 6 years old, before the mustache, back when you still parted your hair on the left. Small advantages compound. You rub dirt into your scalp to darken the lighter roots showing at your part. The drainage ditch ends at a stone culvert barely wide enough for your shoulders. The darkness smells of rats and stagnant water. Somewhere ahead, the tunnel forks left toward a village and right toward open fields. The truly captured pilots aren't the ones wearing handcuffs. They're the men who hesitated at junctions like this one. You count backwards from 10 and crawl right as the dogs hit the far end of the tunnel behind you. Dawn light slants through the culvert grate overhead. It catches the rust streaks on your uniform where the rank insignia used to be. 24 hours since bailout. The math says you should be captured by now. The Germans certainly think so. Their patrols will start relaxing soon, assuming you're deep in the prison system already. Second-day escapes have higher success rates simply because the hunt loses intensity. You press your forehead against the cool stone and try not to wonder how many men thought the same thing right before the trap sprung. The hunger hits differently on the third day. Not the stomach growls from missed lunch, but the hollow ache that makes your hands shake as you eye the apple orchard. Too obvious. German patrols circle fruit trees like wasps. They know downed airmen head straight for the easiest calories. You bypass the apples for windfall pears rotting in the tall grass, less visible from the road. The first bite floods your mouth with fermented sweetness. Swallowing fast before the sugar rush makes you lightheaded. Farm wells have eyes. That little stone hut with the wooden bucket isn't just a water source. It's the village gossip exchange. You circle to the cattle trough instead. The water shimmers with algae and what you hope is just mud. Dipping your canteen carefully to avoid the green film, you strain it through your torn handkerchief. The first gulp tastes like manure and iron. Your stomach clenches but keeps it down. Root vegetables don't scream when stolen. The turnip field's been picked over, but a few stunted bulbs remain in the rocky soil. They come up with a twist and pull that doesn't disturb the surrounding earth too much. Chickens would provide real protein, but wringing necks carries noise risks. One downed bombardier got caught because the farmer heard his prize rooster's death squawks from 400 yards. Wild carrots grow in the hedgerows, their feathery tops barely visible among the weeds. You dig with a stick to preserve your nails. Clean hands draw questions. The white roots emerge slowly, their gnarled shapes unsettlingly like skeletal fingers in the soil. They crunch between your teeth, with an earthy bitterness no amount of scrubbing removes. RAF survival manuals never mention how chewing roots for hours gives you jaw cramps that rival the hunger pains. The beehives sit perfectly positioned, south-facing slope, sheltered from wind, also directly in the sight lines of that machine gun nest on the hill. You mark the location in your mental map. Maybe after dark, if you can approach from the blind side. The risk-reward calculation tilts when you notice the dead rabbit near the tree line. Not shot, probably poison bait left by patrols. You kick it aside and watch for movement in the gun emplacement. None. Too obvious. Streams should be safe. Then you spot the bloated cow carcass 20 yards upstream, tongue swollen purple. German patrols doctored this water recently. The survival manual's water purification tablets might handle bacteria, not whatever chemical makes that rainbow sheen on the surface. You follow the stream anyway, looking for miniature waterfalls where the rushing might aerate the poison. No luck. The cow's dead eyes stare accusingly as you walk away thirsty. The mushroom guide in your pocket has half its entries crossed out in pencil. RAF intelligence updates after too many evaders ate death caps. You compare the illustrations to the fungi growing on a nearby log. Close, but not quite. The margin note warns about lookalikes causing violent gastric distress. Your stomach growls at the euphemism. 3 days without protein makes you weigh risks differently. Tomorrow, you might not care about the difference between chanterelles and false chanterelles. Movement in the undergrowth. A young rabbit freezes instead of bolting. Malnutrition slows its reflexes. You're on it before the thought fully forms, snapping its neck with a twist that echoes louder than you'd like. No time for fire. The first bite of raw meat sticks in your throat. Blood coats your chin as you chew through the stringy muscle. It takes willpower not to swallow the small bones whole. You're elbow deep in a stolen sheep when the farmer finds you. The knife from the village feels clumsy in your untrained hands, making ragged cuts instead of clean butchery. He stands silhouetted in the barn door, pitchfork in hand. Your revolver stays tucked away but ready. The silence stretches as he watches you struggle with the carcass. His face shows no anger, just calculation. Finally, he steps forward, not toward you, but to demonstrate proper slaughter technique on the next section of meat. His hands move with efficient grace, while his eyes keep flicking to your waistband where the gun sits. At dawn, you're 10 miles west with a stomach full of mutton and a new problem. The farmer's cooperation likely came with an expiration date. Maybe he's resistance. Maybe he's waiting for higher bidders than the Germans. The grease from the meat leaves your fingers slippery on the rifle you took from his attic. It's French, bolt action, with 5 rounds that probably date from the last war, better than 3 pistol shots against patrols. Your breath still stinks from raw liver when you spot the next village's church spire. Hunger makes men stupid, but survival makes them reckless. That apple orchard on the outskirts looks entirely too tempting again. You check the rifle's safety and start counting potential patrol sightlines. The cycle continues. The Comet line sounds like salvation when briefed back in England. On the ground, it's a frayed rope dangling over a pit of snakes. That Brussels address they made you memorize. The safe house became a Gestapo interrogation center 3 weeks ago. The new contact point changes daily. Pass through farmers who might be resistance or might be wearing wire. Your first guide arrives on a bicycle with a broken chain. He keeps glancing at your boots, too clean for a local worker. The password phrase, "Spring flowers bloom late this year," should guarantee trust. Except he deliberately mispronounces bloom as blossom. You pretend not to notice the error while his hand drifts toward his coat pocket. 3 possible outcomes. He's testing you, he's compromised, or he's nervous. The revolver in your waistband stays loose in its holster. Border crossings into Spain follow one rule. The more gold you carry, the less blood gets spilled. Evaders without smuggled sovereigns get steered toward mountain passes patrolled by Spanish fascists. The ones with money reach Lisbon in 3 weeks. The others show up in mass graves with bullets priced cheaper than the lead they're made from. Your escape belt holds 2 coins sewn into the lining. Maybe enough for the Pyrenees. Certainly not enough for bribes if caught earlier. The priest's hands shake while measuring your shoulders for a civilian jacket. His measuring tape keeps snagging on your revolver. He murmurs psalms as he works, the verses overlapping with directions to the next safe house. Scripture makes decent cover if Germans burst in. Just 2 faithful discussing Corinthians instead of escape routes. His cassock smells of candle wax and something acrid, like burned paper. Probably from destroying last week's failed evader profiles. Underground networks tolerate English speakers when necessary. They prefer French Canadians, Belgians, anyone whose accent won't draw stares at checkpoints. Your schoolboy French marks you as expendable cargo. Guides have left worse risks than you in barns when patrols got too close. The ranking is simple. Local resistance fighters first, then French-speaking airmen, then the rest. You practice rolling your R's in the dark like it might bump you up the priority list. Timing kills more evaders than Germans. Wait too long to approach the network and you starve. Move too soon and you walk into a trap. The optimal window is allegedly 14 days post-bailout, long enough for initial searches to slacken, short enough that farmers remember their patriotism. Most get scooped up by day 3, desperate enough to trust the first villager offering help. The ones who make it to Spain average 21 days underground. Statistics offer cold comfort when your stomach growls loud enough to drown out caution. Real escape routes live in micro-expressions. The baker's wife hesitates 2 seconds too long before nodding toward her back room. That's the map. The school teacher's tremor when mentioning new students last week. That's the timeline. Everything relies on reading people under conditions that turn paranoia into survival instinct. You learn to watch for the subtle tells. A grocer stacking cans in certain patterns. A fisherman repairing nets with odd-colored twine. Cyclists form the network's bloodstream, peddling evaders between towns under piles of turnips or manure. Their payment comes in rice marks or immunity, depending which side catches them first. Your first transfer happens at a crossroads where the guide compares your face to a pencil sketch. He frowns at your newly grown stubble. It doesn't match the drawing closely enough. The altercation ends with him demanding double the cigarettes promised. You pay because the alternative is being left stranded 20 miles from the next checkpoint. False papers cost more lives than they save. Printer's ink smells wrong under German blacklights. The forgeries feel slightly thicker than real identity cards. One downed navigator got caught because his fake work permit used the wrong shade of blue. A hue discontinued 6 months prior. Your papers claim you're a deaf-mute farm laborer from Alsace. The story works until some policeman tests you by shouting suddenly in your ear. Reflex betrays everyone eventually. Priest holes still function in some churches, if you find the right one. The compartment behind the altar smells of mildew and candle smoke. You curl inside for 3 hours, while German boots echo on the stones outside. Breathing through your mouth to stay silent, you count the seconds between patrols. 47 minutes average. The Bible left in the niche has certain passages underlined. Psalms for comfort. Exodus for coded directions. Train stations work both ways. The 1107 to Toulouse sometimes has a sympathetic conductor who overlooks missing tickets. More often, it has Abwehr agents checking papers at every stop. You board the southbound freight car because the alternative is staying put until the dragnet tightens. The coal dust coats your throat as the train lurches forward. Either this gets you 30 miles closer to Spain, or it's a rolling prison, transporting you straight to Gestapo HQ. The betting odds feel about even. Moon phases dictate movement windows. New moons mean darker nights, but more foot patrols checking for blackout violations. Quarter moons offer enough light to navigate, while keeping search parties reliant on lanterns. You time your treks by lunar calendars stolen from farmers' almanacs, though cloud cover makes everything a gamble. The Germans know this too. Their patrol density spikes during the brightest nights. Eventually, you learn the most vital truth about escape lines. They aren't paths you follow so much as people you trust. And in occupied France, trust is the rarest currency of all. The farmer's daughter who brings bread might genuinely want to help. Or she might be waiting for her brother to fetch the Germans. The priest, whispering about salvation, could be offering earthly sanctuary or heavenly last rites. By the time you know the difference, you're either crossing the Pyrenees or facing a firing squad. No middle ground exists. The school teacher's eyebrow twitches when you say "we." That single syllable betrays you. Too round, too Canadian. Normandy French clips words like scissors through paper. Your textbook Parisian vowels might as well be a siren. She doesn't call the gendarmes. Not yet. But her knitting needles click faster as you walk away. Local dialects kill more evaders than German bullets. Normandy farmers drop consonants like drop charges. Pan becomes pin. Bien turns to ben. Your crisp enunciation stands out like polished boots in a manure pile. That baker who offered bread yesterday now studies your mouth when you thank him. The loaf turns to sawdust in your throat. Pretending you are mute works until the blacksmith's hammer slips. The clang makes you flinch and curse in English. Reflex always outs you faster than interrogation. The smith's apprentice grins. He's just earned himself a week's ration coupons. You're already running when his shout echoes down the lane. Children make the best linguists. The baker's daughter corners you by the well, chirping local slang about petit queen dolls. Your blank stare confirms what she suspected. She skips off singing the nursery rhyme, an alarm bell in pigtails. By nightfall, every kid in the village will know the code for English speaker hiding near the East Field. German interrogators perfected their traps after 1940. They greet you in Quebecois French. Fall for it, and they've confirmed your Anglophone roots before you reach for fake papers. Silence becomes your only safe language. Nods and gestures draw less attention than mispronounced villages. You point at bread instead of asking pan. The grocer's wife charges you double for the silence tax. Hunger teaches you to communicate through posture. The slump of shoulders that says tired labourer, not evading airman. Even your breathing patterns change to match locals. Eventually, you stop speaking altogether. Hunger becomes your interpreter. The hollow-eyed woman at the farm gate reads your stare and slides milk under the door after curfew. The butcher notices how you eye his scraps and wraps them in newspaper without a word. Language fails where desperation communicates perfectly. German patrols develop an ear for breathing patterns. They recognize the shallow, controlled breaths of someone straining to listen. You practice the slack-jawed rhythm of a sleeping drunk when passing checkpoints. It works until a corporal barks suddenly in your ear. The flinch gives you away faster than any accent. Village elders watch how you handle utensils. French peasants grip forks like pencils. Your officer's grip stands out during the one meal you risk in public. The innkeeper's daughter stares at your knife hand throughout the watery soup. She says nothing. Neither do you. The bread knife near her apron could end your escape before dessert. Church confessionals make perfect sound traps. The priest's Alsatian accent matches your cover story until he shifts to local patois. Your silence during absolution condemns you more than any sin. His robe rustles as he reaches for the bell rope. One pull summons the gendarmes waiting in the vestry. You're through the side door before the first chime. Farm wives recognize hunger in any language. The way you eye their chicken coop needs no translation. They leave eggs in obvious places sometimes. Other times, they leave traps. You learn to distinguish charity from entrapment by the angle of the basket, the tension in the twine. No words exchanged, just the quiet calculus of survival. By week 3, your throat forgets how to form words. The resistance guide finds you miming your needs to a terrified milkmaid. His chuckle carries across the field. Christ, mate, your charades are worse than your French. You nearly weep at hearing English that doesn't sound like a death sentence. The final test comes at a Pyrenees safe house. The Basque guide demands the password in French. You shake your head, mute. He switches to English. You stay silent. Only when he sighs and mutters stupid English do you finally speak. Your voice cracks from disuse, but the accent is pure East London. He grins and leads you towards Spain. Sometimes survival means keeping your mouth shut until the right moment. The first dog team clocks out at 1900 hours sharp. Their replacements take 20 minutes to leash up the fresh hounds and check gear. That's your window. German shepherds work 4-hour shifts before their noses fatigue. Their handlers smoke at 45-minute intervals, regardless of conditions. You time movements to coincide with their piss breaks behind the hedgerow. Road checkpoints get lazy after 2300. The sergeant on night rotation waves through farm carts without proper papers just to end his shift faster. Moonlight determines how many feet hit the pavement. During new moons, foot patrols triple to compensate for low visibility. You stake out their routes 3 nights running before moving. The pattern emerges clearly. 2 men sweeping flashlights in synchronized arcs, always leaving a blind spot precisely 2.3 meters wide between beams. Farmers' almanacs become your Bible. Old men note patrol schedules by when they move livestock. Cows return to barns 15 minutes before German jeeps arrive, every day like clockwork. The animals know the rhythm better than their owners. You follow dairy herds when uncertain, matching your steps to their plodding certainty. Sunday mornings offer unexpected advantages. Even SS officers attend mass sometimes, leaving garrisons understaffed from 0900 to 1100. The remaining sentries yawn through their duties, hungover from Saturday night looted wine. Church bells mask your footsteps better than rain ever could. Rainfall helps and hinders in equal measure. Downpours erase footprints, but amplify scent trails for the dogs. You learn to move perpendicular to the wind during showers, letting the precipitation scatter your odor in useless circles. Wet wool uniforms weigh twice as much but muffle sound better when brushing against vegetation. Artillery trains follow strict timetables. Their rumbling passage covers 37 seconds of unrestricted movement as the noise drowns out everything within half a mile. You count boxcars while crawling. 18 cars mean 42 seconds of cover, ammunition loads being noisier than troop transports. The tracks vibrate 10 seconds before the train becomes visible around the bend. Shift changes create predictable chaos. The 0600 handover takes 9 minutes exactly as day and night patrols brief each other. Nobody watches the perimeter during this exchange. They're too busy complaining about rations and officers. You slip past a checkpoint once by pretending to be part of the relief column, marching just close enough to their formation to borrow their invisibility. Dogs alert differently based on training. Regular infantry hounds bark at fresh trails. Gestapo-trained beasts go silent when they catch a scent. You learn to distinguish between the sharp, excited yelps of trackers versus the low growls of killers working without noise discipline. The dangerous ones never make a sound until they're lunging at your throat. Lantern patterns reveal patrol types. Regular Wehrmacht units carry lights at waist height, swaying with their gait. SS patrols keep beams steady at shoulder level. The worst are the local auxiliaries. Their torch beams jerk erratically as they startle at every shadow. You judge risk by how smoothly the light moves through the darkness. Search grids follow mathematical precision. Initial sweeps spiral outward from crash sites in 300-meter increments. After 48 hours, they switch to checkerboard patterns. 3 men abreast covering 800 meters before looping back. You study the spacing between their footsteps in mud to calculate safe corridors. Border zones operate differently. Within 15 kilometers of Switzerland or Spain, patrol intervals tighten to 20-minute rotations. But the guards grow complacent from endless, uneventful shifts. You watch one checkpoint for 3 days straight, until pinpointing the exact minute the corporal nods off against his bicycle. Farm animals give better warnings than sentries. Geese hiss at strangers 10 seconds before dogs react. Horses tense their ears toward movement humans miss. You learn to read livestock body language like a Dowding system radar plot. Every twitch and snort translating into threat assessments. The true vulnerability lies in German bureaucracy. Meticulous record-keeping means patrol logs must match exactly with headquarters paperwork. Clever resistance fighters forge route sheets, sending patrols to wrong grids. You once walk straight through a village while the local garrison searches an empty field 2 miles east. Their orders stamped and approved by some desk officer who never left Caen. Moonless nights favor the hunted, but cloudless ones bring unexpected advantages. You navigate by starlight while German troops rely on easily spotted lanterns. Your eyes adjust faster when you're not the one carrying the light source. Constellations become mile markers when all other references vanish. Cigarette breaks make predictable holes in coverage. Infantrymen cluster every 90 minutes to smoke. usually near landmarks for easy head counts. You map these gathering points to predict where eyes won't be looking. One evader survived by hiding in a latrine during these mandatory smoke sessions, the last place anyone voluntarily lingers. High ground attracts lazy patrols. Ridgelines get checked frequently because they're easy walking, leaving the marshy lowlands relatively clear. You wade through waist-deep muck for hours, knowing most Germans would rather file false reports than sludge through wetlands. Their boots stay shined while yours rot off your feet, a trade you'll take every time. The greatest irony? Their famous efficiency becomes the flaw. Predictable schedules create exploitable patterns. You survive not by being faster or stronger, just by paying closer attention to the clock than they do. The Third Reich's obsession with order builds cracks in their own system, and cracks are where the light gets in. The compass needle jams against the glass, frozen at 15 degrees off true north. You discovered that flaw 3 nights ago, when it led you straight into a German artillery park. Clouds obscure the stars tonight, turning the sky into a formless black void. They didn't cover this in RAF navigation training, how moss grows thicker on the south side of trees, except when it doesn't. The only certainty is your silk map's inaccuracies. Rivers marked as navigational guides were drained to create anti-tank ditches. Roads sketched in blue pencil end abruptly at bomb craters. Railway lines hum under your ear when pressed to the tracks. The vibrations signal an eastbound freight train. Troop movements head toward Paris, supply trains away. You count seconds between rail joints to estimate speed and distance. The map shows this line curving toward Le Mans, but the Germans relaid the tracks last winter to bypass partisan hotspots. Your fingernails fill with cinders as you crawl alongside the embankment. Church steeples used to point northeast, an old French surveying trick you learned in briefings. Half the spires in Normandy now lie in rubble. The one still standing ahead has a clock permanently stopped at 3:17, ever since it was shot. Orchards present another gamble. Apple trees favor southern exposures, their branches bending toward sunlight. You've counted 7 mined orchards so far. The Germans string piano wire between trunks at ankle height. The safer approach is following wild pear trees, their unpruned shapes less predictable, but their fruit just as edible. Your stomach growls at the thought. Clouds part briefly. You trace the Big Dipper's handle with a grimy finger, finding Polaris as they taught you in flight school. The North Star hasn't shifted, but your ability to walk straight toward it has. A shrapnel wound in your left leg makes you list slightly portside with each step. The stars don't account for limping evaders. Cows once provided reliable navigation. They graze facing magnetic north, aligning their bodies like living compasses. Most Normandy cows became rations last winter. The few remaining herds move unpredictably between pastures, their instincts scrambled by shelling. You watch one skeletal heifer circle a tree for 20 minutes before giving up on bovine guidance. Your wristwatch still ticks, the cracked crystal distorting the hands. If you remember, takeoff was at 14:17 and the hour hand points to 4, that suggests you're not sure anymore. The math gets fuzzy after 3 days without sleep. The watch's real value is its luminosity. The radium dial glows faintly enough to check maps without betraying your position. River currents should flow toward the English Channel. This one seems to be running inland, until you spot the German dam project upstream, its concrete barriers diverting water for tank fording practice. The bridge marked on your map exists only as submerged stone pilings now. You wade across, boots filling with silt that will chafe your ankles raw by morning. Power lines offer straight paths to populated areas, until they don't. You've followed 3 separate sets of pylons this week. The first led to a gutted substation. The second ended at a Luftwaffe airfield's perimeter fence. These new lines seem promising until you find the severed cables dangling from a sabotage pole. The copper wire's fresh sheen tells you resistance fighters worked here recently. Without instruments, you resort to crude dead reckoning. 17 paces equal roughly 15 yards if your stride stays consistent. It doesn't. Brambles, ditches, and the increasing drag of exhaustion make each step variable. You count anyway, marking progress in a notebook already damp from sweat. The numbers lie, but they're all you have. Tree rings tell direction. Widest growth on the southern face. You examine a fresh stump only to realize artillery shrapnel has distorted the growth pattern. Another useless datum. At dawn, you notice oak trees hold their leaves longer on southern exposures. Might be true, might be coincidence. You adjust course marginally west based on this hunch. Wind patterns shift with the coastline's proximity. Sea breezes typically pick up by mid-morning, carrying the scent of salt and dead fish. Today's wind smells of burning oil, likely from a shot-up panzer column near the coast. You turn inland despite the map's suggestion of fishing villages as waypoints. Moon shadows offer rough bearings. Objects cast longer shadows at sunset pointing due east. You crouch behind a hedge, watching the shadow of a broken windmill creep across the field. The position checks out against the AF briefing's lunar tables. Then cloud cover returns, plunging the landscape into uniform darkness again. Road signs lie battered but occasionally legible. One points toward Cherbourg 42 kilometers in peeling paint. Cherbourg fell weeks ago. This sign could lead to freedom or straight into the German counter-offensive. You snap it off at the post and use the flat surface to patch a hole in your boot sole. Navigation by necessity replaces navigation by design. Twice now you've spotted lone pine trees standing taller than surrounding oaks, traditional French survey markers indicating high ground. Both times, the vantage points revealed German observation posts. You learn to distrust the landscape's remaining signposts as much as your faulty instruments. By the 4th night, you develop an instinct for gradients. Water flows downhill, villages cluster near water, patrols concentrate around villages. It's crude logic, but your blistered feet can't afford refinement. When the morning fog lifts, you spot hills where your map shows plains. The RAF cartographers worked from 1938 aerial photos. Entire landforms have changed since then through bombardment and earthworks. The barn swallow's flight path at dusk reveals what instruments cannot. Their nests all face southeast this time of year. You notice 5 separate flocks. The bicycle rack outside the town hall tells you everything. 20 machines stand in perfect rows, each with Wehrmacht issue serial numbers stenciled on the frames. No French farmer locks up his rusted clunker this carefully. You count tread patterns in the mud, twice as many as the bikes present. Rotation system. They've got patrols cycling through this village like a revolving door. Fresh chrysanthemums adorn 3 graves near the church. The earth looks recently turned. Your RAF briefing mentioned this. German garrisons force locals to decorate execution sites. The oldest headstone reads 2 days ago. Cause of death carved in euphemisms. Fallen, not shot. Accident, not torture. 3 empty wine bottles sit at the base. Someone's quiet protest. Market stalls overflow with plump cabbages and wheels of cheese, while surrounding farms starve. Normandy's soil grows resentment better than crops these days. The butcher weighs sausage with one hand while ticking off a clipboard with the other. Ration quotas, filled mean bonuses earned. You watch two boys swap glances when his back turns. Their pockets bulge suspiciously. Children play hopscotch in the square. Their laughter pitches unnaturally high when you pass. One girl's shoes look too clean for rural poverty. Boarding school leather, probably from the regional commandant's family. She chants a rhyme about l'anglais volant while deliberately missing her stone throw. The coded warning spreads faster than shouted alarms. The cafe's emptiness feels deliberate. 6 tables sit wiped clean with no patrons to dirty them. A solitary SS officer nurses espresso at the counter. The owner polishes the same glass for 3 straight minutes until it squeaks in protest. His eyes flick to the ceiling twice. Someone's listening upstairs. You order cider just to leave coins on the bar. The officer's gaze follows their spin. Laundry flaps on a farmhouse line. All men's shirts, all identical field grey. Infantry billets mean curfew patrols every 90 minutes exactly. 2 houses down, lace curtains hang perfectly straight in open windows. Collaborator wives pride themselves on spotting strangers. Their fresh white linens signal cleanliness and constant surveillance. The church tower lacks its bell. Village elders claim lightning struck it last winter. The splintered wood around the belfry suggests explosives instead. Resistance sabotage leaves telltale patterns. You kneel in a pew like a penitent. The confessional door hangs ajar. No priest inside. Just a stub of candle burning too fast. Someone's timing something. Dogs know more than humans about danger. The black shepherd at the mill refuses to approach the creek's edge. His ears flatten when wind carries sounds from the water. You spot the glint of submerged wire moments before the current would have swept you into it. Further downstream, a terrier whines at a seemingly empty grain silo. The muffled cough from inside proves him right. Middle-aged men are conspicuously absent from the village square. Only the very old and very young remain. Draft boards took the rest, either for German labor camps or Maquis hideouts. The grandmothers who stay behind develop 6 senses about patrols. One drops her knitting when you pass. The needles form a cross on the cobblestones. Whether it's blessing or warning, you can't tell. Schoolyard rhymes carry hidden barbs. Children sing about the wolf in the woods, while gesturing toward the eastern thicket. Their teacher hurries them inside when you linger too long. The slates on their desks still show half-erased maps of Normandy's coast. Chalk dust hangs in the air like interrogation smoke. Some front doors display fresh paint, too fresh. The Germans whitewash houses where they've conducted searches, covering blood spatter and bullet pox. You note which homes smell of new linseed oil beneath the cabbage stench. 3 in a row on the southern lane. Something happened there last Tuesday. The flies still buzz louder near those thresholds. A seemingly abandoned farmstead shows subtle signs of habitation. Ashes in the hearth are warm, not cold. The single chair at the table faces the door defensively. A woman's wedding photo sits cracked on the mantel. The glass is smashed from the inside outward. Someone left in a hurry, or was taken violently. Livestock behavior speaks volumes. The goats in the south pasture refuse to enter their barn since the Germans converted it into a makeshift jail. Their droppings cluster near the fence line, furthest from whatever horrors they witnessed inside. You give the structure wide berth despite its apparent emptiness. Animals don't hold grudges without cause. The village well's pulley squeaks in a distinct rhythm. 3 quick turns too slow. Everyone draws water slightly differently. You watch an old man perform the ritual flawlessly before spitting into the basin. The sentry nearby pretends not to notice. Some insults transcend language barriers. Post office bulletins are supposed to be bland reading. This one's pin notices flutter with unnatural frequency. Someone checks them obsessively. The Hôtel de Ville announces new ration coupons in bold print halfway down. The paper around those words shows fingerprint smudges. People care more about those lines than the propaganda headlines above them. 2 parallel ruts in the main road run deeper than wagon wheels should leave. Tank treads, recent ones, judging by the lack of weeds regrowing in the impressions. The cafe owner sweeps dust into them nightly, but never completely obscures the pattern. Locals track German armour movements through domestic gestures. A shutter bangs upstairs in the mayor's office. Not the wind. It happens precisely at the hour mark. The regularity suggests mechanical cause. Likely an unsecured window rattling when the German radio operator sends his scheduled reports. Transmission static would mask the sound of someone forcing entry elsewhere. Farm wives hang their washing in code. 5 white sheets means safe passage for one night. 3 coloured ones suggest a trap. You count the linens on the North Road. 6 grey shirts, no sheets at all. The message couldn't be clearer if they'd lit signal fires. The village seems asleep when you leave. That's the most dangerous illusion of all. Normandy nights belong to informers and resistance in equal measure. Every quiet cobblestone whispers warnings in a language only the hunted understand. The road out feels both too short and endless, until the first church bell tolls the hour behind you. By then, you're already part of the landscape. Your stomach growls on schedule at 3:17 a.m. That's 3 fewer minutes between hunger pangs than yesterday. The math is simple. You're burning 3,400 calories daily while consuming maybe 800 in stolen turnips and rancid pork fat. Every step drags more than the last as your body consumes itself. The RAF survival manual claimed boots last 6 weeks in the field. Reality gives you 21 days before the soles separate in Normandy's endless mud. Your left boot already groans at the toe seam. The hand-stitched repair from that farmer's wife won't hold past dawn. Frost crystallizes on the leather each night, weakening the fibers. By week 4, you'll be wrapping your feet in curtain scraps from abandoned farmhouses. That gash on your thigh stopped bleeding days ago. Now it oozes yellow pus that smells faintly of overripe apples. Infection sets in when sulfur powder runs out. You count the stages: redness, swelling, heat. Then the sweet odor that means gangrene's coming. The morphine syringe stays untouched in your kit. Too early to use it. Too late to prevent what's coming. Hunger evolves. The first 48 hours brought stomach cramps and dizziness. Day 5 shifts into a hollow calm. Your body accepting the famine. Now on day 7, you catch yourself staring at tree bark, calculating nutrition value. Birch might be edible. Oak definitely isn't. The manual warned about acorn poisoning, but didn't mention how long it takes to kill you. German bulletins describe a tall English terrorist roaming the countryside. You're 5'8" in flight boots. This small inaccuracy buys you perhaps half a day of mistaken identity. The notice offers 500 Reichsmarks for your capture, enough to feed a family for 2 months. Every farmer's wife eyeing her empty larder does the math when you shuffle past. Night temperatures drop precisely 3 degrees colder each evening as autumn tightens its grip. Your Irvin jacket's fleece lining holds warmth for 6 nights without proper shelter. The 7th finds you shivering uncontrollably in a haystack, breath coming too fast. Hypothermia makes people remove clothing paradoxically. You tie your hands to your belt to prevent stripping unconscious. Water sources dwindle as you move inland. 2 liters daily keeps organs functioning. Less than 1 brings hallucinations. Today, you found a cow's hoofprint filled with rainwater. Dipped your entire face in like an animal. The farmer watching from the fence said nothing. His pitchfork leaned too conveniently within reach. Statistics from RAF escape briefings scroll through your mind. Average evasion last 9 days. 72% captured before day 12. Only 8% make it to Spain. You tick off locations like a morbid bingo card. Passed a church. Check. Avoided main roads. Check. Didn't drink from poisoned streams. Check. The formula for survival keeps changing its variables. Moon phases dictate movement windows. New moon means complete darkness, but double patrols. Waxing gibbous offers enough light to navigate by, but reveals your silhouette. You calculate tonight's exposure risk. 62% illumination. Cloud cover at 40%. Not ideal. Your pencil stub wears down with each frantic calculation. Footwear leaves forensic evidence. German trackers measure depth and spread to estimate weight and injuries. You've started walking heel-toe-heel to disguise your limp. The uneven wear pattern might confuse them for half a kilometer. Maybe. Every 3rd step, your wounded leg betrays the ruse. The escape map lists 17 friendly villages between here and Spain. 5 were obliterated by artillery last spring. 9 more house German garrisons. The remaining 3 could be traps. You redraw routes in your head nightly, adjusting for fatigue and ration depletion. The numbers never improve. Farmers notice missing food with alarming precision. 4 potatoes vanished from a root cellar equals 1 angry farmer with a shotgun. You take only odd numbers, 3 eggs, 1 wedge of cheese, to mimic natural loss. Still, every meal could be your last before discovery. Concrete silos make better theft targets than wooden ones. Less chance of squeaking floors. Your appearance deteriorates on schedule. 14 days without soap leaves hair stiff with grime. Twigs and leaves stick to it naturally now, providing makeshift camouflage. Beard growth peaks at 3 weeks before malnutrition slows it. You count whiskers as a crude calendar. The revolver grows heavier each day. 3 rounds, 1 for sentries, 1 for dogs, 1 for yourself. The math works cleanly until you realize most patrols travel in 4-man teams. Probability, always probability. You weigh the gun's value as a tool versus its drag on your stamina. Moonlight glints off your cracked wristwatch. The hands haven't moved in hours. Time stretches elastic out here, minutes feeling like hours during tense moments, whole days blurring together in exhaustion. You start measuring progress in landmarks passed. 3 more hedgerows until the stream. 2 abandoned barns before the crossroads. Final calculations scroll behind your eyelids as you shiver in another ditch. Caloric deficit times distance divided by patrol frequency. The equation always ends the same way. You need 8 more days' food to reach the Pyrenees, but your body can't last 5. Wind rustles the grass above your hiding spot. Somewhere, a dog barks on schedule. The math was never on your side. The interrogation starts with tea in a chipped porcelain cup. It tastes like someone boiled razor blades in it. The SS officer across the table makes pleasant small talk about the weather, while his adjutant lays out your personal effects, dog tags, crushed packet of players' cigarettes, that photo of your sister from Blackpool. They already know your squadron from the Spitfire's serial number found in the wreckage. The polite questions are worse than shouting. Every answer gets noted in a leather-bound ledger. Your RAF uniform is the only reason you're not dead yet in a ditch. Theoretically, the Geneva Convention protects downed airmen. In practice, it depends which unit caught you and how their last patrol went. The Iron Cross on your captor's neck tells you he fought at Dunkirk. His politeness has an expiration time you can't see. They march you downstairs. The basement smells of lye and copper. Someone hosed down the concrete recently, but the ceiling pipes still drip pink liquid. A typewriter sits ready with carbon paper. Confessions travel up the chain of command in triplicate. The chair they offer has unusual stains on the seat. Interrogation techniques vary by region. Near the coast, they use sleep deprivation, bright lights, and shouted questions in shifts. Here in the interior, they prefer the silent treatment. Days pass in a cell with no word spoken except mealtimes. They're waiting for you to beg for conversation. When you finally do, that's when the real questions start. Flight Lieutenant John Smith of 602 Squadron. That's the identity you rehearsed during evasion. The German intelligence officer slides a grainy photo across the table. Your actual crew from last year's Christmas party. They've had your service records for hours. The game changes now. Survival depends on sticking close enough to the truth that the lies hold up. Transit to a POW camp is a lethal lottery. Boxcars labelled 40 men or 8 horses get packed with 60 prisoners. No food stops, no bathroom breaks. Some guards look the other way when men escape. Others toss grenades through the ventilation slits just to watch the scramble. The corpses get tossed at the next station. Problem solved. Stalag Luft 3's fences loom eventually, if you're lucky. The cooler cells fill with men who tried tunnelling. Nobody mentions the compound next door where they take captured resistance fighters. Those interrogations don't involve tea. At night, the screaming makes RAF pilots memorize Psalm 23 just to drown it out. The commandant inspects new arrivals personally. His walking stick taps against your RAF wings, still stitched to the tunic. He nods to an aide who makes a note. Later, you'll learn about his collection. 427 sets of wings displayed in glass cases, each labelled with name, rank, and capture date. Some have bullet holes where the previous owners tried running. Prison life follows strict routines. Roll calls at dawn. Thin soup at noon. The escape committee meets secretly after lights out. Successful breakouts require perfect timing, forged papers, and relentless stupidity. Of every 100 attempts, maybe 3 men make it home. The math never improves, but attempting nothing guarantees you'll die here. Red Cross parcels arrive sporadically. The guards pilfer the chocolate and cigarettes first. What's left gets divided by barracks seniority. Powdered milk for the veterans. Canned spam for the new fish. Registration theoretically prevents accidental executions. In practice, the Geneva Convention dissolves when transport trains get strafed by Allied fighters. Days blur into weeks. Your body adjusts to starvation rations. Potato peels become delicacies. Dandelion green's a vitamin source. The guards look healthier as you waste away. Trading Red Cross coffee for extra bread keeps you alive, but degrades you in ways the hunger doesn't. Letters from home stop coming. Either the postal system failed, or your family assumes you're dead. Both explanations hurt equally. The camp's makeshift library contains 1 English book, a water-damaged Jane Austen novel. You read it 7 times, then start teaching grammar to bunkmates just to stay sane. Winter comes early. Frost forms on the inside of the barracks. Men pair up for body heat, strictly pragmatic. The Geneva Convention requires coal allotments per prisoner. The quartermaster's ledger shows full rations. The actual deliveries amount to 3 bricks per hut. You volunteer for work details hauling rocks. The guards don't bother supervising closely. Where would you run? A French labourer slips you a smuggled newspaper. The Allies have landed in Italy. The war inches forward while you dig pointless holes. Church services are allowed if conducted in German. The chaplain winks while reading the 23rd Psalm in heavily accented English. Guards pretend not to notice. Small rebellions keep men human. Escape planning becomes an end in itself. Tunnel measurements get recorded in stolen ledgers. Distractions get rehearsed. Fake fights, coughing fits during roll call. The tunneling committee rejects you at first. Your French is terrible. They assign you to dirt disposal instead. Each handful of sand smuggled out in your pants cuffs feels like progress. The tunnel collapses on day 43. Guards drag 2 suffocated men out by their ankles. No reprisals come, just paperwork. Prison regulations require formal reports on failed escape attempts. Bureaucracy outlasts ideology. Spring arrives with Red Cross soccer balls. The games turn vicious quickly. Broken ankles become currency for hospital transfers. You fake appendicitis convincingly enough for the infirmary. The German doctor knows you're lying. He operates anyway, removing a perfectly healthy appendix while humming Wagner. Liberation comes from the east, not the west. Soviet troops look at your tattered uniform with suspicion. They think all prisoners are collaborators until proven otherwise. You show them your dog tags and RAF wings. They shrug and give you a rifle. The war isn't over just because you're free. You never learned what happened to the farmer who betrayed you. Probability suggests he survived the occupation just fine. The math of survival always favored those willing to make hard choices. Some prices can't be measured in Reichsmarks or ration cards. The cam gates close behind you, but the accounting continues for decades in nightmares. Hope dies fast in occupied territory. That optimistic plan to reach Spain within weeks evaporates by the 3rd day. The first casualty isn't your body, it's your belief in happy endings. What remains is the stubborn refusal to lie down and wait for capture. Cloud cover burns off at the worst moment. The same moonlight that helps you navigate becomes a searchlight for German patrols. Your planned midnight river crossing turns into a desperate crawl through reeds, as shadows shrink with each passing minute. Stars emerge where the RAF weather briefing predicted overcast skies. You curse the meteorologist back in England while flattening yourself against a drainage ditch. Sleep deprivation alters reality by day 5. Hallucinations creep in. Voices murmuring German commands where only wind rustles through barley. Once, you draw your revolver on a tree stump, convinced it's a sentry smoking. An hour later, you nearly walk into an actual sentry, mistaking his silhouette for storm-damaged timber. The brain lies before the body fails. Farm dogs shift their behavior over time. At first, they bark at any stranger's scent. By week 2, they recognize your particular odor. Their howls now mean that Englishman's back, rather than general alarm. You watch a shepherd's hound track you through 3 fields without breaking stride. The animal understands pursuit better than his German masters. Maps deceive more than they guide. That forest promising cover turns out to be a thinning grove cleared for tank obstacles. The river marked as a navigation aid was dammed last winter. Every contour line on your silk map represents choices made by cartographers who never set foot here. The Pyrenees seem to move farther away each time you check your position. Hunger makes more noise than you'd think. Stomach growls carry farther than whispers in the still country air. You try holding your breath to silence the gurgles, but your guts don't care about stealth. A rabbit's heartbeat-fast digestion betrays it to foxes. Yours might as well be broadcasting coordinates to listening posts. Beards grow unevenly under stress. Patchy facial hair marks you faster than a clean shave would. Without razor blades, you're stuck looking like what you are, an outsider trying to blend in. French peasants either go clean-shaven or sport full mustaches. Your 7-day growth screams shot-down airman to every farmer's daughter hanging laundry. Linguistic tells compound over time. The first village tolerated your bad French. The second noted your accent. By the third, children mimic your pronunciation when you ask for water. You stop speaking entirely, communicating through nods and gestures. Muteness draws less attention than poor grammar. Training said to follow railways to the coast. The Germans know this too. Every bridge has guards. Every tunnel has checkpoints. You take to walking parallel to the tracks at a distance, adding miles to your journey. The locomotive whistles mock your slow progress. Fatigue erodes judgment first. That barn looks safe enough for a nap, until you wake to a pitchfork prodding your ribs. The farmer may hate Germans, but he likes eating more than he likes you. His children need those eggs you stole. Your RAF wings mean less than his family's survival. False hope kills efficiently. That twinkling light in the farmhouse window could be the resistance signaling, could be a German officer enjoying his evening cigar. You gamble on kindness and nearly lose when the door opens to reveal an SS cap. The back window shatters as you dive through it into the night. Nature turns antagonist. Cloudbursts erase your tracks, but leave you shivering with fever. Sunny days dry your clothes, but make you visible for miles. The perfect apple for breakfast gives you debilitating cramps. Every advantage comes with a hidden cost. German efficiency falters occasionally. Their search patterns have gaps, bureaucratic blind spots between jurisdictions, lazy corporals skipping patrols to nap. You exploit these when you can, but their mistakes don't last. The system corrects itself by bringing in fresh troops, new dogs, hungrier trackers. Evasion differs from escape in one way. It's about buying time, not gaining freedom. Each day unfound is a small victory. Every meal stolen extends the game. You stop thinking about Spain and focus on the next hour, the next field, the next painful step. The body fails before the spirit does. Blisters burst. Wounds fester. Muscles consume themselves for protein. You ration the morphine syringe knowing it won't be enough. At some point, crawling replaces walking. The landscape stops being geography and becomes a series of obstacles to drag yourself past. Farmers' faces tell the story. Early on, their expressions showed calculation, weighing risk versus reward. Later, you see pity. Finally, resignation. They know how this ends even if you don't. The ones who help you do so because they're kind, not because they expect success. Statistics from RAF briefings echo in your skull. 12% make it out. 58% captured within 2 weeks. The numbers don't account for variables like stubbornness or luck. You become a walking exception until suddenly you're not. When the dogs finally corner you in a hedgerow, there's relief mixed with the fear. The running stops. The hunger ends. The Germans look almost disappointed as they cuff your raw wrists. You've lasted 18 days, long enough to be noteworthy, not long enough to matter. The officer checking your dog tag sighs. His paperwork just got more complicated. Back in England, they'll mark you missing, presume captured. Some clerk will update a ledger. Your mother will hang a gold star in her window. The war moves on, leaving your failed escape as a footnote in some after-action report. The only victory is that you made them work for it. That has to be enough. You stop being a man and start being whatever the landscape needs you to be. A shadow when patrols pass. A rumor when farmers whisper over fences. A missing chicken when the farm wife counts her flock every evening. Your existence narrows to pure function. How well you mimic the countryside's natural rhythms. Farmers check almanacs for frost predictions. You study German patrol patterns like weather systems. Gestapo moods swing hot after partisan attacks, cold during paperwork days. Their boots scuff differently when they're tired versus angry. You learn these tales better than your own mother's habits. The trick isn't hiding, it's becoming uninteresting. You cultivate the perfect peasant stoop, shoulders rounded from imaginary years of ploughing. Your cough develops naturally from sleeping in damp haylofts. When German search parties pass, you're just another overworked labourer shuffling home. Their flashlight beams slide right over you. Children's hopscotch patterns map patrol routes in chalk. 3 squares mean 3 checkpoints ahead. A broken line warns of new roadblocks. You pretend to stumble near the game, memorizing the layout while retying your boot. The kids keep singing, their high voices masking whispers about the crow flies west tonight. Church bells ring differently when Germans attend Mass. The priest times his Latin to cover resistance whispers in the confessional. You watch his hands during communion. 3 slow blessings mean safe to approach the vestry. 2 quick crosses mean stay away. Sometimes his fingers tremble, spilling wine. You note which Sundays. Barn rats become your alarm system. Their squeaks go silent 13 seconds before humans enter. You sync your sleeping to their foraging schedules. Awake when they're active. Still as stone during their daylight rests. The rats adjust faster to your presence than the farmers do. German shepherd handlers rotate shifts like clockwork. Fresh dogs arrive at 0500, 1300, 2100. Their noses stay sharp for exactly 4 hours before fading. You time crossings accordingly. By week 3, even the dogs start ignoring your scent. Just another routine odor in their patrol zone. Farm wives hang laundry in codes. A red petticoat means Germans search the house today. White sheets hung edgewise signal safe passage tonight. You watch one woman adjust her line twice after spotting you. The 3rd clothespin points toward a root cellar with fresh bread hidden under sacks. Local coughs become your language. The blacksmith hacks twice when Abwehr agents drink at his forge. The miller clears his throat 3 times before opening the grain chute where you hide. You develop your own variation. A wet rattle that makes passing Germans edge away from potential typhus. Search parties stop looking for footprints after heavy rain. You learn to move during downpours despite the cold, your trail washing away faster than you make it. Mud stops mattering when every field worker leaves similar smears on gateposts. Farm dogs decide your fate more than their owners do. The vicious ones get chained at night by patriotic families. The silent ones belong to collaborators. You test each new village by tossing a stolen sausage near their kennels. The speed of their wagging tails tells you everything. Moon phases dictate movement windows. Full moons let you navigate but expose you to snipers. New moons hide you but bring out infrared scopes. You compromise on quarter phases when shadows fall just right to obscure a crawling man. German paperwork creates unexpected loopholes. Harvest permits override curfews in autumn. You borrow a scythe from an empty barn, letting the blade flash conspicuously in sunlight. Patrols wave you through. Another dumb peasant, bringing in the last of the beats. The resistance finds you through whiskey breaths in the dark. A man missing 2 fingers presses a tiny slip into your palm, a matchbook with an address scraped off. His nicotine-stained whisper says, Ask for Marie before vanishing into cider-scented night. Your reflection disappears before you do. A rain barrel shows hollowed cheeks matted with leaves, hands blackened from hiding in chimney flues, uniform rags rewoven with stolen wool into something nearly civilian. The RAF wings stay buried in your pocket, not removed, just waiting. Farm boys playing war shout English Flieger near your ditch. They don't see you. They're reimagining last week's dogfight, Spitfires weaving in their childish fantasies. You stay still until their game moves elsewhere. Let them remember the heroics, not the starving man watching from the hedgerow. Silence becomes your true camouflage. Not just quiet mouth, but still hands, measured breaths, heartbeats slowed by willpower. You practice merging with haystacks until not even the rats startle at your presence. The Germans could step on you and mistake your ribs for fallen branches. Winter finishes the transformation. Frost etches your jacket with the same patterns it paints on fence posts. Your beard collects ice crystals like the thatched roofs do. When you finally cross into Spain months later, the border guards assume you're just another weather-beaten shepherd. The legend of the missing pilot fades into countryside rumors before you ever reach Gibraltar. Survival isn't about strength, it's about becoming invisible to history. The ones who made it home weren't heroes. They were whatever the earth needed them to be at that exact moment. Trees, stones, ghosts who forgot their own names long before the war ended. The baker's wife keeps kneading dough as you slump against her doorway. Flour streaks her forearms up to the elbows. She doesn't look up when whispering, "The cuckoo calls at midnight," but her knuckles whiten around the rolling pin. Gestapo informants don't bake with such tension in their shoulders. Maybe. You cough the countersign wrong. Not spring flowers, but May blossoms. Close enough to be plausible, far enough to prove you're not trained. Her gaze flicks to your hands, palms too smooth, nails too clean for months underground. The knife beside the flour sack wouldn't kill quietly. She knows it. You know it. The dough keeps folding. They test everyone. The first safe house asks about London football clubs. You name Tottenham. They expected Arsenal. Silence stretches until someone mutters about rugby being more your speed. Your shrug confirms their suspicions. Real RAF would argue passionately. Conditions worsen with each transfer. The cellar near Tours reeks of wet wool and gun smoke. 4 men argue in rapid French about your fate. 12 bullets versus 1 knife. The math gets translated for your benefit. Their leader wears a German corporal's coat with the insignia torn off. His breath smells of turnip soup and bad decisions. Your RAF wings save you. The leader fingers the embroidery, his thumbnail tracing the eagle motif. His brother flew hurricanes at Dunkirk, didn't come back. The wings buy you exactly 3 cigarettes worth of deliberation. Smoke curls toward the rafters as decisions get made elsewhere. Options narrow to 2 equally terrible paths. Wait indefinitely for the Pyrenees route, currently compromised, or join tonight's ammunition depot raid, predictably suicidal. Both guarantee violence, just different timelines. You pretend to deliberate while watching the knife handler practice throwing against a flour sack. His blade sticks every 3rd try. The silent farmer in the corner sharpens a scythe with methodical strokes. He's killed Germans with it before. You can tell by how he tests the edge. Movement upstairs makes everyone freeze. The baker's wife stomps twice, all clear. Someone unpins a map from the ceiling beams. The depot's hand-drawn in charcoal, patrol routes marked in red wine stains. The operation requires explosives you don't have and French you don't speak. Your role becomes suddenly clear when they hand you a German rifle. You're the distraction. Boot fittings happen without ceremony. The farmer's spare pair pinches your toes, but muffles footsteps better than your ruined RAF issue. Someone presses a filthy identity card into your palm. The photo resembles you, if squinting through fog. Occupation lists you as a deaf-mute labourer. Useful cover until someone shouts in your ear. The baker's wife cuts your hair with sewing scissors. She angles your head like a faulty radio antenna until the silhouette matches local styles. Grey streaks appear via charcoal dust rubbed into your temples. Aging 10 years takes 3 minutes. The mirror they offer shows a stranger, sunken-eyed, bearded, jaw set like men who expect to die by dawn. Equipment gets distributed with grim practicality. You rate 4 grenades, Polish-made, unreliable. A dagger, kitchen steel reforged. And that captured Mauser with 11 rounds. The leader keeps the submachine gun because he actually knows how to clear jams. Everyone checks each other's gear with the solemnity of pallbearers. Final briefings happen over watered wine. The depot's night shift plays cards from 2200 to 2300, their one lax period. Take out the sentries first, then the generator. 2 wagons of munitions burn cleanest if you puncture the fuel drums early. No one mentions what happens if the demolition charges fail. Your hands shake, holding the matchbook safehouse address. Marie's name is scrawled inside alongside symbols meaning either priority evacuation or expendable asset. Interpretation depends on whether you make it back. The baker's wife tucks a saint's medal into your breast pocket. St. Michael, patron of paratroopers. The gesture feels more ominous than comforting. Languages blur during the final preparations. French mixes with Polish curses and German weapon drills. You catch your RAF serial number muttered in the corner. Someone committing it to memory for notification purposes. The leader lights his last cigarette from the stove embers. His grin shows 3 missing teeth. "Welcome to the resistance," he says in perfect Oxford English. They lead you out through the root cellar, past jars of preserves that won't last the winter. The moon hangs deliberately bright, good for navigation, terrible for stealth. Someone presses a sprig of lavender into your hand. Local custom says it masks the smell of blood. Blackout curtains part just enough to show the village square. 2 German sentries patrol opposite ends, their footsteps hitting the cobbles in staggered rhythm. Your team moves during the 17-second blind spot when their paths diverge. The baker's wife resumes kneading dough as you slip into the alley. Someone must maintain appearances. Hand signals replace words now. Finger counts mark yards to the rally point. Every shadow could conceal watching eyes. The leader checks his wristwatch. An RAF issue navigator's model, with the broad arrow stamp still visible. Probably his brother's. Probably stolen from a corpse. At the crossroads, someone whispers your actual name for the first time since crash landing. Not your rank, not your cover identity, just the syllables your mother uses. The shock nearly makes you miss the next signal. You adjust the German helmet on your head, too large but necessary for the ruse ahead, and step into the moonlight as someone else entirely. Stage 1 begins now. The mountains appear first as smudges on the horizon, barely distinguishable from the clouds. You've imagined the Pyrenees for weeks, their snow-capped peaks symbolizing freedom. Up close, they're just rock and ice, indifferent to your suffering. The Basque guide spits when you ask how long the crossing takes. His teeth look black in the firelight. "Depends if you freeze to death first," he says, tossing you a pair of worn espadrilles. The souls won't last 10 miles. Escape routes are just stories men tell themselves to keep moving. The Comet line funneled airmen south through safe houses until the Gestapo gutted it last winter. The Pat O'Leary route still functions in patches, if you know which fisherman to bribe. Your guide does. He lost 2 brothers running this trail before switching sides. Now he charges 5 gold sovereigns per head or takes payment in ammunition. The rifle slung across his back used to belong to a Canadian navigator who couldn't pay. Mountain streams cut through the valleys like icy knives. You cross 7 before sunrise, each numbing your feet further. The guide refuses rest stops. Hypothermia sets in faster than German patrols. Your toes go from aching to numb to burning in cycles. At the 5th stream, you peel off a sock to check. The blisters have burst, leaving raw meat where your pinky toe used to be. The guide glances back, shrugs, keeps walking. Spanish border guards are businessmen like any other. Some accept bribes in tobacco. Others prefer turning escapees over to the Gestapo for the higher reward. Your guide knows which checkpoints to avoid by the color of their uniform buttons, a system that works until it doesn't. The 2 silver coins sewn into your collar might convince the lazy ones, might not. Altitude changes everything. At 6,000 feet, your lungs struggle for oxygen you took for granted in the cockpit. The guide doesn't slow down, even when you vomit from exertion. He points to dark smudges moving along distant ridges, Spanish patrols, or perhaps just goats. Your vision blurs trying to tell the difference. Each breath feels like inhaling broken glass. The sprig of lavender from the baker's wife falls from your pocket, forgotten. Failure usually happens early for evaders. First-week captures come from predictable mistakes, hiding near crash sites, trusting the wrong farmers, following outdated maps. You've lasted long enough to fail differently. Exhaustion makes you stumble into a scree field, sending rocks clattering down the mountainside. The guide hisses a curse as answering shouts echo from the valley. Frozen dirt cakes under your fingernails as you scramble uphill. The last French village flies a white flag nobody acknowledges. Could mean neutrality, could mean plague. A one-legged veteran in the tavern eyes your boots while serving watery beer. His wink suggests he knows exactly what you are. The guide argues with him in a dialect too fast to follow. Eventually, coins change hands, along with a tattered identity card bearing someone else's face. The photo resembles you if viewed during an earthquake. Border guards play their own game. The illiterate ones can't read your forged papers. The educated ones enjoy proving it. Your fabricated work permit claims you're a deaf-mute shepherd. A story that crumbles when the guard suddenly kicks a bucket behind you. Reflex makes you turn. His smirk says the pistol now pointed at your chest was worth the theatricality. The guide intervenes with a bottle of schnapps and 3 cigarettes. The barrel lowers reluctantly. Descent brings its own torments. Gravity pulls you downhill even when your legs refuse. The Spanish side lacks German patrols, but makes up for it with sheer cliffs. Your guide stops checking if you're following. Either he trusts your survival instinct or doesn't care anymore. A tree line, the air warms enough to revive feeling in your fingertips. The pain makes you nauseous. Gibraltar materializes through afternoon haze, its limestone cliffs glowing gold. The guide stops walking at first sight of British uniforms. His payment comes in the form of your Irvin jacket. The fleece lining will fetch months of wages on the black market. You hand it over without protest. The walk from here is yours alone. Sunlight bakes the mountain path as you limp toward the border post. Your remaining boot leaves bloody prints on the rock. The sentry's cigarette dangles forgotten as you croak out your name, rank and squadron in English for the first time in months. He blinks twice before shouting for a medic. The reaction seems excessive until you catch your reflection in a truck's fender. Sunken eyes, beard crawling with lice, skin stretched tight over bone. You look more like a recovered corpse than a pilot. The military doctor counts your wounds with clinical detachment. Frostbite, starvation, 14 lice per square inch. He notes these details while pricking your finger for a blood sample. The RAF interrogator who arrives next wants battle damage assessments. How many Messerschmitts shot down? What airfields you spotted? You answer mechanically, watching Gibraltar's harbour through the infirmary window. British destroyers glide across the water like toys in a bathtub. They give you new boots after delousing. The leather squeaks when you walk, stiff and unbroken. That night in the officers' mess, you push food around your plate while others celebrate. The murmured conversations still sound like German to your ears. Sleep comes fitfully between air raid sirens, phantom alerts from months of hiding. Dawn finds you staring at the ceiling, mapping escape routes to nowhere. Processing takes 3 days, fingerprinting, debriefings, endless forms in triplicate. The repatriation order comes stamped with bureaucratic efficiency. They'll ship you back to England once medically cleared. Some clerk has already notified your next of kin, missing, now upgraded to alive. The paperwork doesn't mention the farmer who hid you in his root cellar, or the baker's wife who slipped coded messages in baguettes. Their war continues without you. On the transport ship, you stand at the rail watching Spain shrink behind you. Another evader joins you, his hands still shaking from malnutrition. He asks if it was worth it. You don't answer. The mountains have already vanished into the horizon, as indifferent to your survival as they were to your suffering. The ship's engines thrum steadily westward. Somewhere below decks, a radio plays, "There'll always be an England." You light a cigarette instead of singing along. 12 men out of 100 walked away from crashes like yours. Their debriefs all ended the same. Then I got lucky. Not skill, not training. Blind chance deciding who froze in a ditch or sipped tea in Gibraltar. So, would you roll those dice? Difficult to say, isn't it? Thank you for coming on this journey with me tonight. If you enjoyed this story, I'd appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, and maybe even comment on other places you would like to visit, and I'll try and make it happen. May sound sleep and beautiful dreams come to you tonight, my friend. You deserve it.